We've all been on the receiving end of death by PowerPoint, but we don't want to be guilty of inflicting it upon others. If you want to create slides that cut through the noise and engage your audience, there are 6 principles you need to follow. Let's get started. Principle number 1, your slides are not your script. Too often I see people putting the detail onto the slide so that they can read it. And the problem with that is that your audience can read faster than you can. So if I share something like this on screen with you now, then you want to read it all. Even though after a moment or two you work out it's nonsense, you want to get through to bullet point number 5. There is something about seeing text in front of us that makes us want to read it as human beings. So we've got to be really mindful about how much we give to our audience. Now, for me, it's all about using the information that's on screen to reinforce the message, but you as the speaker must be one step ahead of the audience. So this slide is about 3. 3 what? I hear you ask. Well, thanks for asking. 3 bullet. 3 bullet what? 3 bullet points. Now, I'm not actually suggesting that you should only have 3 bullet points on a slide. I think you should keep the bullet points to a minimum. But what I was trying to demonstrate there is that if you are one step ahead of the audience, then you get to reveal the information at your own pace. If I'd put this slide up and allowed you to read it first, then there would have been no punchline. I wouldn't have been able to make the point in the same way. So really think about how you manage your audience's attention so that they stay with you and they're not one step ahead of what you're saying. Principle number 2, we don't know your data as well as you do. One of the things that gets me most when I watch pitches and presentations is listening to someone say, as you can see from the slide. And I'm like, no, I can't. It's your slide. I've never seen it before. The challenge when we're subject matter experts is that we know our information inside out and back to front. And we don't put ourselves into our audience's shoes and understand that they are often seeing these things for the first time. So if you see a slide like this, obviously it's nonsense, but there are 4 different data points here. And I can tell you not to look at the donut graph, but if your favorite color is yellow, then that's where your eye is going to be drawn. Or if you happen to be particularly interested in the data for region 1 and region 2, and you're not so fussed about what's going on Q1 through Q4, then that's where your eye is going to go. So there are a couple of ways to manage this sort of thing. The first is very simply to build these things up. So here's the Q1 through Q4 data. What's fascinating about this next donut chart is that 35% of people are blue. Now let me talk you through what happened from April through to August. And finally, let me talk to you about what's going on in region 1 and region 2. And as you can see there, as I build that information up, I'm able to guide my audience as to what is coming next rather than allowing them to choose the narrative that they want to take. Ideally, what I do is turn this slide into 4 separate slides. And then what I'd look to do is to build up the data step by step. So we have to explain what our audience is seeing. If we're sharing charts, then we want to say, on the vertical axes, you can see units sold in hundreds of thousands, and on the horizontal axes you can see product 1 through product 4. Region 1 is going to be in green and region 2 is going to be in blue, and then we can start to build up the picture. So let's start with region 1. This is what happened with product 1, product 2, product 3 and product 4, and now let's compare what happened with each of those products region by region. So in region 2, product 1 did this, product 2 did this, product 3 did this. And what we're really here to talk to you about today is why product 4 underperformed. And you can see, even though that's nonsense, there's a clear narrative that's being created there for the audience, and people know what they're looking at. So don't be afraid of signposting. Don't put it all up in front of them in one go. Use transitions and animations to build things up so that your audience go with you on the journey. Before I move on to the next principle, if you want to learn more about crafting and delivering pitches and presentations that cut through the noise, then make sure you check out my new book, Cut Through: The Pitch and Presentation Playbook. There's a link somewhere around this video. Principle number 3, if you include it deliberately. There's nothing more frustrating than seeing people flick through slides. If this was the opening slide for my presentation and all of a sudden I go, oh yeah, don't worry about this, let's move on to this. You kind of go, oh, what happened in the agenda? I want to go back. I want to understand. So we've got to be really mindful that we don't want to make our audience feel like they're missing out. You can easily hide slides in a presentation, so give it a little bit of thought before you sit down in front of your audience and decide exactly what narrative you want to create. Then you can hide things, you can put things in the appendix, but you really should only be showing audience slides that are relevant to them, and you will want to avoid flicking through things and moving past things at all costs. Principle number 4, less is not always more. Somewhere along the line, a myth has developed that the best presentations have the fewest number of slides. There's a lot of talk when I work with clients about keeping things below 10 slides. And to be honest, that's nonsense. You need as many slides as you need to be able to tell the story. What happens if we limit ourselves to 10 slides is that people just cram everything onto 10 slides to try and get all of their ideas to fit the constraint. In reality, it's actually much better to make sure that each slide just contains a single idea. So often when I speak at conferences, I'll be given something like a 20-minute slot, and I'll send the organizer 60 slides, and it blows their brains, and they go, oh my goodness, this is far too much content. But when I use that content dynamically and move through the deck quickly, then what you're finding behind me is actually visual reinforcement of what's going on rather than additional noise and distraction because everything's been crammed into as few slides as possible. So keep things simple, one idea, one slide, and don't get tripped up by the thinking that less is more. Principle number 5, it needs to pass the mobile phone test. When you're thinking about slide design, it's really important to think first about what type of screen it's going to be appearing on. So if you're speaking at a massive conference and there's a ginormous screen behind you, that's going to play some part in how you think about designing your material. But ultimately, most of us are not presenting in those sorts of environments. We're presenting on Teams, we're presenting in meeting rooms. And because of the modern way of working now, if your slides don't fit onto a mobile phone in portrait mode, if you imagine that someone's joining the meeting virtually and they're walking down the street and looking at their mobile, if they can't read it, then you're going to lose them. And when we think about virtual meetings and we think about someone on their laptop, don't convince yourself that they're going to have your presentation enlarged on their screen. They've probably got 2 or 3 other tabs open as well. So quite often our slides are really, really tiny. And we need to think about making the words and the graphics as clear as possible so that they could be viewed on a mobile phone. And finally, principle number 6, your presentation deck might not be their takeaway deck. What do I mean by this? Well, there is often a big difference between what you leave behind with a client, with a colleague, with a prospect, and what you deliver in the moment. I really encourage the people that I work with to create 2 versions of a presentation. One that looks much more like a brochure, which may have additional text on the page that can be left behind, and a much cleaner version, stripped down, taking out all of the words that can be used as the presentation deck. And that allows you to become the main event. We don't want people walking away going, oh, I really love those slides. We want people walking away going, wow, I really love that message. So think about having a presentation deck and a takeaway deck for your next pitch or presentation. Ultimately, when it comes to slide design, you're going to have your own aesthetics, you're going to have your own preferences. But if you bear your audience in mind at all times, it's going to allow you to create something that brings them on the journey with you, but doesn't distract from the message that you're trying to deliver.